Hey, Dane Rose here in day 2 of the Scientific Well-Being 30-Day Project. So the goal again, how to have the most positive impact with the least amount of energy and effort spent. I'm taking about 30 minutes a day. So following up from yesterday, about 50% of the Fiverr research commissions on this project, like how can a person like you and I have the most positive impact on a given day, got kind of confused, but a few have caught on. So this gets to principle number 1, which is plan for at least 50% failure when setting out into anything a little bit unusual. And so one of the things that I love about the website Fiverr is that I do plan on up to 75% failure. When I'm commissioning a logo or something like that, I will usually commission the same project to 3 or 4 people. And there's usually something useful in at least half of them, and then I get one good logo for $20. And in this case, if I get one great idea that I haven't thought about, I've commissioned research on a song, and then I decided I would do another research project on simply the question: how could you and I spend 30 minutes a day to have the most positive impact on the most people over time? Like, what is that area? It's a great question. So that was yesterday. And I want to touch on another thing, which is that some of this is dubious. Like when I was emailing back and forth, to all of these Fiverr contractors, most of which seemed a little bit puzzled. Like, what's the goal here? Well, it's just to help people. It's a puzzling goal when we are inculcated with capitalism. I mean, that is the paradigm of the day. And we can see this when, like I've always noticed with some irritation, that if I have a great idea to help someone and call people up, they're like, yeah, let's talk next week, let's do this, or a great social outing, or, there's all kinds of exciting new ideas. But the one thing that really gets people jumping tends to be money. Do you want an extra $100 right now? Oh yeah, let's do that. Sure, I can arrange things. So it's like $100 trumps all of this great stuff for so many people, which is a pity, because in many cases the science shows that we are not intelligent enough to spend the $100 in a way that would create more well-being than many more direct things, like a wonderful picnic with close friends could deliver far more well-being than $100, and yet the picnic gets kind of scheduled out till next month and procrastinated, whereas the make an extra 100, really gets the juices flowing. So one of the things that I discovered, and as I was mulling, because it's not, the first bit of research has yet to take place. And so it is possible that all of this flurry of emails and stuff on Fiverr will collapse to very little, or there'll just be 1 or 2 good ideas. But I do still find that taking action, even if it's risky action, by risky I mean it's very likely to fail, is still helpful. And I think the reason is that of all of the 60,000 thoughts that you and I each have every day, according to science, the bits that we remember, the thoughts that we feel are significant, are the thoughts that we take action on. And so this diary has already become a big part of my day because it's the one thing that I'm really committing to, a 30-day project. I'm on vacation and so I literally have no other commitments for the next 30 days. So in picking this a project to have the most well-being on the most people over a 30-day period, it stands out. And so I'm getting new ideas, even though a lot of what I am doing may fail. It's stimulating the muscle of thought. And that's partly what this is about. It's like, what does come when we really exercise and fine-tune this thought? But going into the evening, one of the things that I want to highlight is that in positive impact, you have a volume of impact. So you have kind of the height, like how big is the impact? And you have the width, like how wide, how many areas of life or how many people it affects. And you have its depth, how much, it's how long does it last, would be one way of putting it. And spending time last night having some really deep and profound conversations with my partner, she was able to have a healing breakthrough, going back into one of her most painful moments in life and opening up that wound and having it be loved this time, having it be cared for this time, having it be validated and understood as opposed to humiliated and shamed, has created a pivot, both in our relationship, but also in her attitude towards her future and her life. There's, even today, I'm looking at, all kinds of new goals and stuff that she's working on out of that change, out of a deep pain, going from being shamed to being honored, to being heard, to being safely held. And so one of the things that I'm very confident in, because as with any experiment, we will have to see day by day which of these different ideas actually works. One of the things that I'm absolutely confident in are moments like that. So, it's, and I mention that just because it's easy to get caught up in the, it's saving someone's eyesight in Africa or something, when sometimes it can be healing some of our own deepest emotional pains. In the silence of our own room can just pivot. It can transform who we are as human beings and deeply affect our families and those we care about. So that matters too. So going on today, the projects have been as follows. Number one, following up on the Fiverr research. Number two, Ralph Abrahams is a brilliant mathematician who I have been watching on YouTube in trialogues with another, wonderful scientist, Rupert Sheldrake, and Terence McKenna, the famous psychonaut. And so I've gotten to know Ralph and his interest in education and well-being and maths. And so I just finished sending him an audio recording and one of my books, 101 Choices on My Path to Well-Being, which was in and of itself a well-being project some years ago. And basically outlined a math problem that I'm having with an app, because I thought it would be one of the most exciting long-term impacts that I could possibly have would be to develop an open source app that anyone could improve that had one focus: to promote human well-being and then give it away worldwide with no other purpose other than, does it produce well-being, and how can it be continually refined to produce more? So it's an exciting app project, but the math of how to measure well-being and how to know whether in a given situation focusing more on thoughts or more on feelings or more on a physical change will have the most difference, and things along those lines, that's a math problem. So I wrote to Ralph and invited him to participate, and he's never heard of me before, and so this is one of many long shots, but it's part of a principle that I have of what's the best that could happen and what's the worst that could happen. So I spent 15 minutes of time. The idea occurred to me out while I was watching a Terence McKenna video over breakfast. I pause the video. I walk in 15 minutes later, having typed in Google, Santa Cruz, Ralph Abrahams, etc. 15 minutes later, I'm sending that audio recording. Audio recordings have allowed me to kind of clearly articulate, a lot of interesting ideas in very little time. And so that's going off to Ralph. And worst case scenario is no reply or sorry, I'm busy, not interested. There's 15 minutes down the drain. But best case scenario is he feels appreciated, that someone's watching his videos and stuff, that he appreciates being considered, that he enjoys the algorithmic challenge of bringing math into this domain of human well-being as a science, that he is interested, and that the app is significantly more useful because of that. Or he's not at all interested in that, but a dialogue begins that at some point helps me understand what he is interested in these days, and maybe there's another project down the road. And so it's pretty simple, like amazingly high upside. Thousands and thousands of people could benefit if it goes well. Absolutely nothing but a wasted 15 minutes and a little disappointment if it doesn't. So that was this morning's project. And then another little side project, because I think when you're investing, it's a little bit like that stock, bonds, those risky investments, maybe 20%, bonds and cash, maybe 30%, and then you have kind of medium risk stuff. And so a lot of what we're talking about here is very, very high risk, meaning like 80% probability that nothing will happen about it, and it'll just be, wasted $50 on Fiverr and wasted emails to Ralph, and just nothing comes of it. But comedy is a source of well-being, and one of the things I did recently was kind of go through all of my favorite comedy of all time and make a playlist on my phone. And there's this app called Mobizen, which screenshots everything on my phone. So I took all of my favorite comedy on YouTube, stuck it together, it's old British comedy, and uploaded it. And I'll stick it on this channel because that's guaranteed levity for me, and it's just a way to share some humor. So that's the update for today, and I'll be back tomorrow to share the results and what we're up to on day 3.